What's up, guys? Today we're going to be making picks for UFC Fight Night 144, Assuncao versus Moraes 2. It's a pretty good card. It's a good card for a fight night. We have Assuncao, we have Moraes, we have Jose Aldo, Renato Moicano, Demian, Maia. Like, overall, I'd say it's a pretty stacked card for a fight night, especially being in Brazil. We got a lot of good Brazilian talent on this card. One question I have for you guys, which I've just been thinking of as a bit of a fantasy fight that we'll never get to see most likely, but interesting nonetheless, is Demian Maia versus Ben Askren. Obviously, Maia, he's a jiu-jitsu guy. My opinion, one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in at least UFC history, if not MMA history. And then Ben Askren, one of the best wrestlers in MMA. And all Ben Askren seems to try to do is take you down at will, right? All he's trying to do is take you down. And all Demian Maia wants to do is be on the ground. So I feel like they'll both be comfortable on the ground. It'd be interesting, though, if Askren tries to stand with him, because I think Maia is better on the feet, in my personal opinion. I think Maia wins that fight really regardless of where it goes. But just kind of an interesting matchup in my head. What do you guys think? What do you guys think would happen if we saw Askren versus Maia? Anyway, without further ado, let's get right into it. So first fight of the night, we got Magomed Bibulatov versus Rogerio Bontorin. Bontorin, he's a pretty big guy for this weight class, I feel like. He's very powerful. He's got lots of heart. Really tough dude. He's good on the ground. I think he's going to have the advantage on the ground here. Bibulatov, however you say it. He's good on the ground, but I've never seen him on his back. I've only seen him take guys down. And I don't see him being taken down here. I think he's a very underrated wrestler. He's got really good hips, and I think if anybody's taking this fight to the ground, it's going to be Bibulatov. I think one of the keys for Bontorin here is going to be leg kicks. Bibulatov has that very wide karate stance, and to take advantage of that stance, Bontorin's got to kick him. I think the low kicks could be especially effective here. We'll see if he does that. I'm not sure. I haven't seen him really have a leg kick heavy attack before, but I think that'd be a very good game plan. But overall, I think Bibulatov just could be too much here. As I said, he's a good wrestler. I think he's got the stand-up advantage for sure, and that ability to keep it standing. I think he's also going to have a cardio advantage. He's got advantages everywhere. His last fight versus John Moraga, I don't think it was a fluke. Moraga had a good game plan, but I think Bibulatov was smart in taking, I think he took almost a whole year off after that fight. So recovery as well as fixing those mistakes. I think he's a very talented guy, and I think he gets the win here. However, I do think he's like minus 450, minus 500. I think that's a little bit outrageous. I would value more at like minus 250 to minus 300, but still a very heavy favorite nonetheless. And yeah, so I got Bibulatov here. Next fight up, we have Ricardo Ramos versus Said Nurmagomedov. Said, I don't think he has any relation to Khabib other than being friends. Like, I don't think there's any like blood relation there. Said here is moving up in weight. He fought his debut at 125. I think that's his first fight ever at 125. And I know Dana White often likes to kind of put guys where he wants them. So I feel like Said would have preferred to be at 135, but if Dana White says, we want you if you fight at flyweight, he's going to fight at flyweight. So I think that's what we kind of saw there. I think he was extremely drained in that fight. I don't think we really got to see really who he is, who Said is. He's primarily a stand-up guy, but he's very well-rounded. He's good everywhere. That fight was against Justin Scoggins, and as I said, I don't feel like we got to see the true Said. I think he's a lot better than that. So if people are basing this fight off of that fight and then picking Ricardo Ramos with the uttermost confidence, I mean, fair enough if that's all you're looking at, but he's a lot better than that. So I think we'll see a completely different fighter here. He's a very kick-heavy guy, kick-heavy attack. The one thing I have noticed, though, is he's kind of a pot shot kind of guy, where he'll do a jab, he'll do a kick, but he doesn't really do anything in combination. When he does is when he feels the guy's hurt, and then he gets a little bit wild, which another guy on this card, I feel like, does the same kind of thing, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, fairly well-rounded guy. Now, going on to Ramos. Ramos is really young. I think he's 23, so still very, very young. absolutely enormous for this weight class. So even though Saeed isn't a small guy by any means, I don't know how he made 125, but I don't think it's even possible for Ricardo to make 125. That's a that's a really big 135er. We saw his last fight against Kong, and those are, in my opinion, probably the two biggest bantamweights on the roster. So that was kind of crazy. That was a really close fight. I think especially Kong was underrated for that one. That fight was arguably a draw, in my opinion. Very, very close. I'm not mad at the decision, but very, very close fight nonetheless. I noticed a couple things with Ramos, though, is he keeps his, I forget which hand it is, he keeps one of his hands very, very low, and I think Saeed could potentially take advantage of that, landing especially like head kicks, because he seems to be getting hit. Again, I forget which side it was, but he leaves a very big opening, kind of like Luke Rockhold does, where he's like great everywhere, but he has this one gaping hole in his game. So we'll see if Saeed can take advantage of that. But I think kind of the key here is going to be for Ricardo to bully him, just kind of put the pressure on him, make him move backwards. Don't know how well Saeed can move backwards. In most of his fights, it's kind of neutral, if not him moving forward. So we'll see how he deals with that pressure, because I think Ricardo is going to pressure him. He's got that big opening, so if he can get over that blocking hand, there could be problems for Ramos here. But I think Ramos he's too big. I don't even think he's more skilled. I think he's more skilled on the ground, but everywhere else, I'd say Saeed's more skilled. But I think just that size advantage we're really going to see, and it's going to play a big factor here. So I got Ricardo Ramos there. Next fight up, we got Felipe Colares versus Geraldo de Freitas Jr. So this is the one I did the least amount of tape on for sure. I couldn't find much, and honestly just don't care that much. But Colares undefeated. Both these guys are Brazilian, I'm pretty sure. Colares definitely is Brazilian. He's kind of a grinder. He puts a lot of pressure on guys. His attacks they're technical, but he does have some spinning stuff in there. So I wouldn't say he's an elite striker at all, but he's kind of technically sound, whereas I feel like Geraldo isn't. He's kind of a wild man in there. Both these guys are most comfortable on the ground. The big experience advantage is going to go to Geraldo for sure. He's fought since, I don't know, like a decade or so. Like, he's fought for a long time, whereas Felipe is still fairly new to the game. Geraldo's moving up in weight here. He's been a bantamweight his entire career. He's moving up now after missing weight in his last fight. Is that going to play a factor? I don't think so. I think these guys are almost the exact same size. They're both 5'9". They're built fairly similar. I don't think there's going to be much of a size discrepancy. Yeah, that's basically it. They're both really good on the ground, so I don't know if it'll cancel. It might cancel each other out, and then I think Colares is just better on the feet. I saw the line for this fight. Colares is the underdog, so that could be a potential play if you guys see value there. Again, though, I wouldn't bet on anything that you don't know much about these guys. So as I said, I don't know a lot about them, but I'm going with Colares here. Next up, we got Junior Albini, a.k.a. Junior Al Bonehead, for his fight IQ against, how the hell do you say this guy's name? Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I'm just going to call him good old JR for this one, because I'm not going to say Rozenstruik a whole bunch of times. So, Junior Albini. What do we got to say about this guy? Looked promising. Beat Timothy Johnson in his debut and looked really impressive. Was a huge favorite against Andrei Arlovski, which obviously people were wrong about him with that. He's built really, really strange. A lot of body fat, carries a lot of fat in his legs, has a little tiny head with the smallest neck in the heavyweight division. I guarantee that. This guy has doesn't look like a fighter. Like, you look at my neck, right? I don't look like a fighter at all. I got a little skinny neck. That's what Junior Albini looks like. So it looks like he does, I don't know, nothing to strengthen your neck. Doesn't get hit in the head at all. Doesn't do any jiu-jitsu. I don't know. It's weird. All right, good old JR. Good old JR used to be a kickboxer. Has been since 2009, so quite a lot of experience in that area. He's not as good as you may think, though. Definitely, a way better striker than most heavyweights. Especially for a heavyweight, you're going to see an advantage there. but nothing crazy. Like, he's not like style bender or something where it's like, holy shit, this guy's just like way, way better than everybody else in stand-up. It's not like that. He's very powerful. I believe he had 64 knockouts in his kickboxing record. So there's that. He's got a good jab. He throws a lot of hooks, though. Like, he doesn't use the jab very much. So stand-up wise, I think he's got a pretty big advantage here. And Junior Al Bonehead, might just walk right into that and just hit me, bro, and get knocked the hell out. So that could happen. I could easily see that happening. Albini's so much more well-rounded here. He's obviously got the Muay Thai background. He's pretty good on the ground if you watch some of his earlier fights. So he has like a lot of skills that he just doesn't seem to display because he's a freaking idiot. At least it seems that way. I mean, God, some of the decisions, man. Let's go clinch up with Alexei Oleinik. That sounds smart. Anyway. And he didn't keep he kept way too much distance with Arlovsky after he got like jabbed up, but whatever. So, Junior Albini, if he loses this fight, he deserves to be cut, and I think he will be cut. But he's so much more well-rounded. So I think he's got to be smart enough to take this guy down or at least clinch him, right? Because he's going to have a big advantage there. Obviously he's bigger, he's less athletic, and he's going to get killed on the feet. Even if he gets the better of him, because I think he might be faster. At least he throws like softer, quicker strikes, whereas the other guy's more of a power dude. So like I'm picking Junior Albini, but I'm not surprised at all if he gets knocked out. He's got to freaking take him down. So come on, man, Albini, take him down. It's not that hard. Anyway, well, it might be hard, but that's got to be the game plan. But this dude doesn't seem to know what a game plan is. So Junior Albini's the pick there. Zero confidence at all. Next up, Max Griffin, Thiago Alves. This is one of the few fights on the card that I bet on. I bet Max Griffin. I forget how much, but I bet Max Griffin. I think he was minus 200 when I bet him. So a pretty decisive favorite, 2-1 favorite. I kind of feel like Thiago's done. One of their mutual opponents is Curtis Millender. And if you just look at how these guys did against Curtis, it's like night and day difference. Max was super competitive. That was a very, very close fight. Thiago got destroyed. I'm not saying Max is more talented, or not more talented. I don't think he's more skilled. I think Thiago probably has more tools in the toolbox, but I just think he's past his prime. Would I be shocked if Alves won? I would. A prime Alves, this is an interesting fight, but now I just don't see it. He's at a 6-inch reach disadvantage. He's lost quite a few as of late. Griffin is better than he's ever been, in my opinion. He's very fast with his hands, and I don't see even Thiago being able to hit him with a kick because of that huge reach disadvantage, and I think Max uses it quite well. This could be kind of similar to Mike Perry versus Max Griffin. Thiago's a lot more skilled than Mike Perry, but I just feel like Max is going to frustrate him, and that's going to be the end of that. So I got Max Griffin here. Don't think it's going to be that close. I understand why you could think it's that close, but I just think Alves is done, and I think Griffin's being a little bit underrated here. So I got Max Griffin there. Next up, we got Mara Borella versus Talia Santos. This is a really close fight to me. I mean, I think a big thing here is just UFC experience. So Borella has a few UFC fights, 2 or 3. I can look here. She has 2 or 3 UFC fights, so she's got a little bit of experience. She has 2 UFC fights. This is going to be her 3rd. But nevertheless, she's looked pretty good in both those fights. So her debut, I forget how it happened, but she took the girl down and pounded her out. Or was it a submission? I don't remember. She won. The other one was against Caitlin Chookagian, and I actually thought Borella won that fight. Chookagian outlanded her, I believe. I think it was very, very close, though. Borella moved forward the entire time. She scored takedowns, and she landed the way harder strikes. So, yeah, Borella, I feel like, is being underrated here. A lot of people are betting Talia Santos. But if you look at who Talia Santos has fought, she's fought some girls that are like 0-4, 0-9, 1-7. It's like great competition, right? So yeah, she looks skilled, but I think it's very, very different once you get hit by some power shots, which she will here. You're gonna get hit. It's a fight. So yeah, I think Borella might surprise some people here, and that is going to be a close fight. I'm still going to go with Taylor Santos. I think she's got a very good jab. Um, she has good leg kicks. She doesn't throw a lot of power shots, but she's very technically sound. I'm very interested to see how she does with getting hit, because she's getting hit in this fight, and she's going to get hit hard. So we'll see how she deals with that. I think she's more technical, and I think Borella's just kind of a bigger, stronger girl. So we'll see here, but I'm going to go with Taylor Santos. And I think I don't know if it's going to be a close fight, but I think it's a hard fight to call with what we know right now. But yeah, so Taylor Santos is going to be my pick there. Next up, we have Markus Perez versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. A whole bunch of people are betting Markus Perez here. He was like a plus 200 underdog, and I'm part of that group. So I bet Markus Perez at plus 195, 1 unit there, and then did a little bit more tape study, and then put another 2 units on him at plus 170. This is still an insanely close fight, though, so don't get me wrong there. It's just, if it's a 50-50 fight, or maybe 51-49 for Perez, why not take the huge dog money? So I did that. Markus Perez, he's a freaking wild man. That's going to be the worry for anybody who bets on him here, is he kind of just tries to have fun. He bounces around, throws crazy kicks, kind of looks like he's doing parkour in the middle of fights. He's just like having a ball in there. Doesn't use his hands very much. He's very kick dependent, whereas Anthony Hernandez is very boxing dependent. Not dependent, but he boxes a lot more than he'll throw kicks. He does throw kicks, though. Hernandez is way more technically sound, without question. He's very patient in there. He has a pretty good ground game. But I think one of his biggest strengths is just his patience. A lot of people don't see that, and a lot of people are saying, oh, like he's fighting a very experienced guy. This is Anthony Hernandez's debut, and it's going to be interesting to see. Is he going to be patient in there with the whole Brazilian crowd chanting, "You're gonna die"? We'll see. But yeah, so Markus Perez, I feel like he's more athletic, he's more explosive, he's better on the ground, and it's just kind of like a man versus a boy fight. Not quite that, but like that kind of idea. So I think he'll kind of just out-muscle him in there. Hernandez is still very skilled. As I said previously, kind of like 51% chance Perez wins, 49% chance Hernandez wins in my head. That's what I'm thinking right now. So you can go either way on this one, but I think it's a close fight because I think it's completely dependent on Markus Perez and whether he... Sorry, just got a message there to distract me. Completely dependent on whether he's going to kind of follow a game plan. Like, I could easily see Markus Perez going in there and just being an idiot, as he usually is, and then losing, getting outstruck, just throwing those crazy kicks, going for a knockout. However, the big thing here, and the reason why I bet him, this thing will load, is his losses recently. His UFC record is 1-2, so he's 1-3. Sorry, 1-2 in his last 3 fights, and he has to win here. I think he's kind of in danger of getting cut now. He's a fun guy, but they don't keep fun guys around unless you're winning. So I wouldn't be surprised if he follows a game plan here, because his career, in terms of his UFC career, might be dependent on that. And as a result, I'm going to go with Perez for the victory. It's in Brazil. He's Brazilian. He gets to train very close to where he's fighting. And Hernandez, I don't know if he's made that kind of a trip before. And then obviously he's never made that kind of trip and debuted in the biggest organization in the world with all the crazy Brazilian fans. And I don't know if that patience is going to be there, if he's going to be a bit overwhelmed. So I'm going Perez here. Close fight, but I think home field advantage, having your career in terms of your UFC career on the line is just going to be what propels Perez to a victory here. All right, next up, we have Livia Souza versus Sarah Frota. They're both very similar. I see a lot of people saying Sarah Frota is like a wild, crazy striker. I don't really see that. She's fairly technical, as is Souza. I think the difference here is going to be speed. I think Souza is faster. I think Souza is more athletic, and she's more experienced. So I'm going to go Souza here for fairly straightforward reasons. They're both good, but I think Souza just kind of has a couple advantages, and I don't really see where Frota has the advantage. Frota's good on the ground, but again, I think Souza is every bit as good on the ground. So just kind of a little bit better everywhere, and that experience on the big stage, I think it's just going to be too much. So I'm going to go with Livia Souza there. Next up, we have Johnny Walker versus Justin Ledet. I wouldn't be so quick to write Justin Ledet off here. Obviously, he got absolutely annihilated by Alexander Rakic, who I think is, or Rakic, or however the hell you say it, who I feel is one of the best light heavyweights on the roster. I don't think it's going to be long before we see him top 10, and I think he's going to be top 5. I think he's a very talented guy, hasn't really had a chance to show it against top competition. But yeah, I don't think there's much shame in losing to him. There is a little bit of shame in losing him. I think it was like 30-25 on some scorecards. Like, he got dominated. But anyway, not the worst person to lose to. Johnny Walker, freak of nature athletically. He's like 6'6" and doing backflips and all the rest of it. In terms of technique, though, I'm not impressed at all. He's a big athletic guy who throws kicks, throws punches. I'd say on their own they're kind of impressive, but he doesn't set anything up. He doesn't transition well. He doesn't do anything well. In terms of putting it together, like that's what a lot of people saw in TJ versus Cejudo. TJ is he's going to be better at transitioning between striking, between clinching, between ground game, whereas Cejudo might be good in all those areas, but he can't put it together. So that's kind of what I feel, what I see with Johnny Walker. He's good kind of everywhere, but he has a hard time putting it all together and like transitioning through all those things. But Justin Ledet's just a boxer. He doesn't really do anything else. I mean, does he have a ground game? Does he have a clinch game? Yes, but it's not UFC caliber. He was very good at heavyweight against complete garbage competition, fighting guys like Chase Sherman and others who aren't even on the roster anymore. And that's insane in itself. Like, heavyweight, in my opinion, is easily the weakest, at least male, division in the UFC, and these guys aren't even on the roster, and it's like, oh, well, he's so good because he's beating all the heavyweights. He's beating complete tomato cans. So Johnny Walker, although I don't think he's the greatest MMA fighter yet. He's more athletic than Justin Ledet. He's way bigger than Justin Ledet. Like, forget about the fact that Ledet used to be a heavyweight. He's way bigger than Ledet is. I promise you that. You'll see that. And yeah, I don't know. I think Walker's he's too athletic. And I can't bet on a guy who just got mauled like 30-25. It might have even been 30-24. Like, that fight was ridiculous against Rakic. So I'm going with Johnny Walker here. I'd be very surprised if Ledet can just box him up, because I think Walker's more well-versed than guys like Chase Sherman, guys worse than Chase Sherman, who he's also beat, who I'm not going to look into right now because they're not even worth mentioning. But I'm going Johnny Walker here. Is it a close fight? I don't really know. I don't know how it's going to play out. I'm not that impressed with either guy, and they fight very differently, so it's going to be interesting. But yeah, we're going Johnny Walker is the pick there, and I'm not going to ramble on any further. Next up, we have Charles Oliveira versus David Teymur. This one's interesting in the fact that Teymur opened as a huge favorite, like almost 2-1 favorite, I believe, and then Charles Oliveira is now the favorite. So line completely flipped here. It's very, very hard to trust Charles Oliveira, because even though you can tell his kickboxing's gotten a lot better, he's so dependent and tries so hard to get the guy to the ground that that is kind of like puts his skills in other parts of MMA, like in the clinch or even later on in like kickboxing, just in jeopardy. He tries so hard to get the fight to the ground, gasses himself out, takes crazy risks where he'll end up in the bottom and just get smashed. Even though like he's so good on the ground, but you can't put yourself in that bad of positions against UFC caliber fighters. Don't get me wrong, he's extremely good. He has more submissions in the UFC than any other fighter in UFC history, so that says something. David Teymur, I feel like David Teymur is very good. He might be a little bit overrated, though. People are saying his striking is just world class in terms of like kickboxing. I don't see that. I think he's pretty good. He has good footwork. He's always moving backwards, though, as you saw in what's his name, Drakkar Klose. Just standing in the middle, like what am I supposed to do, man? What am I supposed to do, ref? He's just backing up because he just backs up the entire fight. And I think Charles Oliveira is going to play right into that game plan. He's going to try to charge him and get him down because that's what he always does. And Teymur's going to be able to defend the takedowns, I feel like, through keeping him at distance with strikes. Teymur is usually fairly kick-heavy. I think he maybe will be a little bit less so here. However, I think he's stronger than Oliveira, so I think if Oliveira grabs him, he's going to be able to stay on the feet. I think he's got pretty good takedown defense. And the other reason that I'm confident in Teymur here is he's with Feroz. He's fighting out of TriStar, which is a very good camp. They'll have a good game plan. They'll be well prepared. Even though this is in Brazil, I'm still going to go with David Teymur here. So that's the pick. Next up, we have Demian Maia versus Lyman Good. This is one of the two fights that I'm having a really, really, really hard time picking. Demian Maia, extremely talented guy on the ground, as I talked about at the start of this video. Just unbelievable. His ability to get you there. He doesn't even have to get you there. He'll just like jump on your back and you're screwed. So very, very good. Very, very impressive. His striking isn't bad. People think his striking sucks. His striking doesn't suck. I mean, he was able to stand with Usman for the majority of that fight, and it was very, very competitive. I feel the main reason that he lost that fight, other than there's a big cardio advantage for Usman in that one, but outside of that, I think the big difference with that one is Maia was shooting. Maia was shooting to try to get the takedown like the entire fight, so that gassed him out, plus put him in really bad positions in terms of striking. And that was kind of his demise there. Maia's been up against the gauntlet here. I think the three toughest matchups in the whole welterweight division have been his last three fights. So Usman, Colby, and Tyron Woodley. I don't see him being able to beat any of these guys, and the reason being simply because they're outstanding wrestlers who can strike. Guys like Usman and Colby, I think it could have been an interesting fight if Maia just decided, I'm just going to strike with these guys the whole time. I think it would be really, really close. But because he's shooting for takedowns and doesn't get any of them because these guys are top-tier wrestlers, as I said before, it became his demise, and that's why he lost those fights, in my opinion. I'm not saying he would have won if he just struck with them, but I think that kind of put him at a big disadvantage. With Woodley, you can't strike with him. He's too good on the feet. You can't take him down. That was a matchup where he was screwed from the get-go. That was also one of the first fights that I bet quite a bit of money on, and obviously won. So yeah, that's it for Demian Maia. Moving on to Lyman Good. I don't know a ton about Lyman Good. He's fought for a long time. He tested positive for steroids, and then he came back smaller, but looking every bit as jacked as before, so I don't know what all that's about. He doesn't really impress me that much anywhere. He's fairly fast. He's extremely powerful. One thing that I found extremely weird, so his last fight was against Ben Saunders. Ben Saunders, I get like he's not the best. His biggest problem is his chin. But Lyman Good was over a minus 600 favorite, over a 6-1 favorite. I think he was minus 605 or minus 610 or something like that. So just this unbelievably huge favorite against Ben Saunders, and now you're fighting Demian Maia, and you're a 2-1 underdog. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, I don't think there's that big of a difference between Maia and Ben Saunders. There's a difference for sure, but that's a pretty big difference. So yeah, Lyman Good. He's got a good takedown defense in terms of percentage. However, he hasn't really been up against many guys that are going for takedowns and know how to do it well. Guys like Ben Askren took him down at will, whenever he wanted. It wasn't even close. It was just a beat down. He went to Funky Town. So yeah, this is a tough fight to call for me because if it's on the feet, Lyman Good's going to win. He's a lot better striker than guys like Usman, guys like Colby. Not a lot, but he's better. And I don't think Maia can compete with him on the feet. Lyman uses a few kicks. He's not very kick heavy, but that seems to be something he's introduced into his game, which he's going to have to take out for this fight because that's a vulnerability to being taken down. So I don't see you doing that here. It's a really tough fight to call, guys. As I said, it's one of 2 fights on this card where I just have no idea. I think I'm going to side with Maia because it's in Brazil. It's 3 rounds, so the cardio thing shouldn't be as big of a problem. And the reason there's a cardio problem is simply because he's shooting for his life. He's trying to get the guy down 99% of the fight, and as a result, you get tired. So I still think he's going to gas out here, especially if he can't take him down. I kind of compare Lyman Good, or I was trying to compare Lyman Good to Jorge Masvidal because they're kind of similar. I think Masvidal has better wrestling, though, and Good's obviously bigger than Masvidal, and Maia was able to beat him. So I'm going to go with Maia here. It's in Brazil. That's another reason, but this is a who the hell knows fight. But yeah, Maia's the pick here. Moving on, what should have been the main event, Jose Aldo versus Renato Moicano. So this was supposed to be the main event. Aldo didn't want to do 5 rounds. He's like, enough of Max beating my ass. Like, screw this. So it's going to be a 3-round fight. Obviously, it's in Brazil. Everybody in Brazil loves Aldo. However, Renato is Brazilian, but I think all the fans are still going to be cheering for Aldo regardless. This was the other one that it's a very, very hard fight to call. Couple things to touch on here. So, number 1, people are talking about ground game, who has a better ground game. Aldo has this amazing ground game, but he never uses it because he loves standing up so much, and he's a very good stand-up fighter. Moicano has submitted a bunch of guys, submitted Cub Swanson and others. Very good at transitioning on the ground. He's a decent wrestler in terms of timing. When guys are coming in, he knows how to time it. I wouldn't say he's super high caliber in terms of just a wrestler, but he's very good at MMA wrestling in terms of timing and gets those takedowns. But I think we can scratch all that. None of that's going to happen because I don't think Aldo's going for a takedown because the dude has never gone for a takedown in his entire career. I don't even know if he's gone for a takedown. And then Moicano, you're not taking down Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo has arguably the best takedown defense in the history of MMA. Guys like Woodley would be a little bit better, but all those takedown defense is just absurd. So I don't think this fight's going to the ground is what I'm trying to say. So it's a stand-up fight. So who wins a stand-up fight? Well, Aldo is a lot better on the feet, for sure, in terms of experience. He's a better boxer. I think he's a better kickboxer, but I think he has one limitation being footwork. He's an extremely static guy. He's a very static, explosive kind of striker. He won't move, but he's very reactionary, as you see with a lot of his recent head movement, which he's very good at. But there's no footwork. There's no in and out. There's no angles. There's no side to side. It's just kind of shuffling forward and shuffling back extremely fast, using a lot of explosiveness, which in turn makes him tired. Moicano, he's not as good of a striker. I don't see it. One thing that Moicano does is he throws these huge looping shots whenever he hurts a guy, which is going to be interesting here because when Aldo gets hurt, he just fires away huge looping shots. When Moicano hurts a guy, that's the same thing that happens. Huge looping shots. So if Moicano hurts Aldo here, we're going to see a freaking brawl for sure. But I don't know if that's going to happen. He dropped Cub Swanson. This is Moicano. He dropped Cub Swanson with a jab. That was insanely impressive. Aldo has insane head movement, so I don't know if we're going to see much of that. Aldo struggled with guys that are taller than him with the reach advantage. Even guys like Holloway, who are just kind of bigger but not longer. Aldo had a reach advantage over Holloway to the surprise of some, but it didn't matter. Max is extremely talented. Very good footwork. Moicano, not even close to the same level footwork as a guy like Max Holloway, but he's going to have to use it here. If he can kind of stay in and out and use really good footwork to kind of negate that explosive static striking of Aldo, I see him winning. I also would have picked him for sure if this was a 5-round fight, and because it's a 3-round fight, it's in Brazil, it's hard to say. it's a very, very hard fight to pick, at least for me. I'm going to pick Moicano, and the reason being, I don't know if Aldo's motivated anymore. He has like 3 fights left on his contract. He told Dana White, I want them all to be in Brazil. He's kind of running the show now. It's like, oh yeah, I don't even want a main event. I just want a 3-rounder, so put me in the co-main event. Dana White didn't do a very good job hiding that fact because it got out in the news. Plus, the freaking main event is Assuncao Moraes, which is not even close to the same level fight as Aldo Moicano in terms of a fan perspective, and especially a Brazilian fan perspective. With a guy like Aldo, he should always be the main event in Brazil. But yeah, the pick there is Moicano. I think cardio is going to be a big advantage here. He's got to be very careful because I can see him getting dropped by Aldo. But I think the key here, again, is footwork. If he can go in and out, cut angles, and just kind of play it safe, honestly, I could see him winning. So I'm going to go with Moicano there. Very, very hard fight to pick, though. And the main event of the evening, shouldn't be the main event, but whatever, is Raphael Assuncao versus Marlon Moraes. This fight, well, the first fight here was extremely close. It was Marlon's debut. I thought Assuncao won that fight super close, but he was moving forward the whole time. They were fairly even on the feet. I feel like Marlon overall did a little bit better, but Assuncao hurt him twice. So I'm totally cool with that decision. Since then, I don't think either of these guys have lost. I mean, Assuncao lost to TJ. I don't remember if that was before or after the Marlon fight. It was before, yeah. So neither of these guys have lost since. Marlon's all hyped up here in terms of the fans' perspective because he got 2 knockouts, knocked out Aljamain Sterling with what was supposed to be a kick that turned into a knee. Sorry about that. And the other one was against Jimmy Rivera. And we didn't even get to see how that fight would actually go because Jimmy Rivera was unconscious before it even started. I still think that's a really cool fight if they ever decide to make it again because we didn't really get to see anything. But anyway, Marlon won, obviously. So, I kind of see Marlon doing the same thing, Assuncao doing the same thing. I think Marlon's got to be extremely careful of getting dropped here. I think Marlon's faster. I think he's got to be on the juice. If you look what this guy looks like, it's freaking ridiculous. Looks like a superhero. And then Assuncao's getting older. I don't know how big of a factor that's going to play. I think Assuncao is one of the most underappreciated, underrated guys. Not only now in the UFC, not only in the bantamweight division, and the history of the UFC. The guy never turns down a fight. He's always comes in ready, and he never loses. Like, his last loss was to TJ, and before that, I don't even know. Like, he always wins. His record's 27-5, and he's only been fighting top guys for, like, forever. I'm going to pick Moraes here, though. It's a 5-round fight. Moraes has 5-round experience. Assuncao does not. Moraes is very confident. I think they both are very confident. I think Assuncao's probably pissed by this point that he hasn't gotten a title shot, and I think it's been, if not promised, he sure as hell should get a title shot here. Cejudo could mess all that up, though, but let's not talk about that. So a close fight. I think it's going to be a close fight again, but I think just speed, movement, and kind of vengeance are what's going to lead Marlon to victory here. Close fight, 2 Brazilians once more, so I still think Aldo should be the main event, but that's beside the point. Marlon Moraes for the victory here. If it goes to the ground, Assuncao could have a good chance of submitting him. I think he's definitely better on the ground, but Moraes is so athletic, has great takedown defense. I see it playing out on the feet, 5 rounds, probably a decision. Assuncao never seems to get hurt. And yeah, Moraes, 5-round decision victory. So that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions about anything, about betting, about whatever, let me know. Comment down below. Until next time, have a good day, boys.